The Chilliwack Creative Commission is proudly located on the traditional unceded territory of the Stalldo people. Live from Studio C, welcome to Creative Third Thursdays. It's good to see our studio audience here today. You could clap again now. It's our day to celebrate creativity in Chilliwack, and you're welcome to be in our studio audience. Doors open at 4:30. The recording begins about 5. CTT, as we start to call it now, is taking place at Co-work Chilliwack, and tickets are on Eventbrite and are free. Refreshments, some good creative mingling opportunity, or as we say, networking, right? Anyway, it's a chance to meet some other creative people and those people that want to meet them, and it's a good mingle before and after our presentation. So who can't use a good mingle and maybe even make a little bit of social media content for their social media channels? Huh? We all like to do that. Thank you to our YouTube audience.
That's us.
So if you are watching on YouTube, please give us a like and subscribe. It's helping us to build a community of creative people starting here in Chilliwack, BC. So now, if I could presume to be so persuasive as that when you are sharing about Creative Third Thursdays, use our tag, Creative Chilliwack. We've worked really hard to create that tag, and we're starting to, when you are social media-ing, thumbing through your phone, and you're going, what are they doing at Creative Third Thursday lately? You can just use that tag as a search parameter. So use that tag if you are posting about being at Creative Third Thursday this afternoon. Creative Third Thursdays is an event put on by the Chilliwack Creative Commission. The Chilliwack Creative Commission is a passionate committee of Chilliwack Economic Partners Corporation. For more about us, search Chilliwack Creative Commission at businessinchilliwack.com. And we feel really lucky, actually, to be able to do Creative Third Thursdays here at Studio C at Co-work Chilliwack. So let's say thank you to our host, the producer behind the curtain at Studio C, Tim McAlpine. So the Creative Commission's 9th annual Pecha Kucha event is coming up. It'll be taking place on February 22nd. We're putting together a stellar lineup of creative people, and they'll be speaking on the topic of humanity of creativity. Tickets will be available in early January. Creative Chilliwack hashtag, you could probably find those tickets a little later or soon after that post goes up. The Creative Commission are really committed to the Chilliwack Independent Film Festival as well. It starts tomorrow and runs for 3 days. This year's SIFF will feature 81 films. The complete schedule for the 7th edition of SIFF is available by visiting sif.ca. A little treat for you a little later. We'll play you the trailer for this year's Chilliwack Independent Film Festival. It's really well done. So that's the opener. Let's say thanks again for coming to Creative Third Thursdays, where creatives meet other creative people and those that want to meet them for refreshments and conversations. On with our show. The turmoil of the last few years created both chaos and opportunity. Some recognized the opportunity and pivoted. For others, like our guest today, it was a complete 180. He's the photographer you've seen around Studio C at Creative Third Thursdays lately. Our guest traveled a long road and met a major fork, and it's quite a story to tell. Please welcome our featured Chilliwack creative, Alex Harte. Alex Harte.
Hey.
Welcome.
I'm so sorry. I know, I jumped the gun. Thank you.
Well, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for making time to come and be part of Creative Third Thursdays, Alex. What I find really interesting, I kind of alluded to it in that video about your story, is the road that you took and that you bravely decided to take a certain fork in the road. And we want to talk about that. But let's let's get to the passion you found for photography along the way. And you were educated in geography, so that's going to be a bit of the story here. So, what does a geographer do?
Yeah. On the surface, and you guys have probably all taken a geography course at some time in your elementary, middle, high school experiences, it sounds a lot like map making and staring at maps and naming capitals. It is, but it's also so much more than that too. My experiences as a geographer, I've learned that it's kind of an essential humanities education. It's English, it's political sciences, it's economics, it's art. Geography means to write about the earth in its Latin roots, and that's very much what it is. So it's very much a humanities-based education, but with that, there's also a lot of practical applications. So there's geographic information systems, which is map making with technology in the computer. Urban planning and community planning is something that I actually was originally pursuing and worked in a professional capacity for a few years. That leads up to kind of that fork in the road that I'm sure that we'll talk about. That is a lot of different community work, both socially, environmentally, economically. If you see bylaws and zoning and District 1881, for example, there was probably a bunch of planners involved in all of that. The groundwork, the political side of it, the land development. So there's a lot of different routes that geography can take somebody, and a lot of routes that you probably wouldn't think of traditionally. Lots of public service work. I think most of my cohort now, from when we graduated, are working in local or regional government in some capacity. There's a lot of creative work. Journalism and geography sometimes has a tie over. Not so much photography and geography, but I'm sure that's what we'll kind of get to and talk about.
So you actually were, speaking of working for local government, you were actually working for the regional district for a while, right?
I was, yeah. So I worked with 2 regional districts. I did my education at Vancouver Island University, and after that, I was working on my master's degree. I had an opportunity to work with the regional district of Nanaimo as an environmental analyst. I left my degree to go make some money because I was a poor master's student. So I did that, and I completed a 1-year contract with them. Only meant to be 1 year, that's what it was. Great work experience, like lots of really smart, intelligent people I got to work with. That contract came to an end. Towards the tail end, I had gotten married to my wife who's in the audience, and we decided to make the move back to Chilliwack, and about 7 months later, I found myself at the Fraser Valley Regional District in a similar role with a similar team of people.
Why did you move back to Chilliwack?
I was raised here. I moved here with my family when I was about 4 years old, spent my entire life here, loved it growing up. I spent all of my time down by the river, the trails, Cultus Lake, the places you guys all know. That really brings Chilliwack up and makes it the beautiful place that it is. When I was a young adult, I got that itch and I couldn't wait to move out of Chilliwack. I wanted to see different places, which led me to some travel through Europe, Southeast Asia, and then to the island to finish my degree. As I was on the island, every time I'd come back to visit, I'd see friends and family. And every time I came back, I could feel myself, my emotions, my feelings towards Chilliwack change just a little bit. I started to see it again for how beautiful that I remember it as when I was younger. I saw it growing and changing. I saw more people starting to do things here that I was really excited for. I saw a district coming up. I saw all these new development. My urban planning brain was kind of going haywire for a little bit there. But what I really saw was people were starting to really just build like this new kind of creative scene. And I saw this culture coming, kind of giving, I don't know, rising up here, so to speak. And every time I saw that, I just had this itch to come back. And then after my program finished, or my contract finished with the RDN, my wife and I chatted, and we knew that it was time to come back here and plan to lay down some more roots and really build something here. And that's been our plan since then.
So let's just back up a little bit to how did you end up in Vietnam pointing a camera so much?
Yeah, so Vietnam was a very, very cool situation for myself. I was applying for this scholarship. It was a Queen Elizabeth Diamond Jubilee Scholarship, big, long, confusing name. And it's for Canadian university students who are focused on different types of research initiatives. This theme was, it was called the BRIC themes, so building resilience in coastal communities. I was an environmental researcher at the time. I had done some work previous to get me to that point. It was a year-long application process. I had a really great team of professors and faculty who helped me get to that. Fast forward, I got the scholarship. I was one of 7 students at the university who were awarded it, and that was basically an all-paid-for trip to work and volunteer in Vietnam while I lived there for about 4 months.
And you took a lot of photographs.
I spent every spare moment outside of that office with my camera. It was a little Rebel T7. I bought it on sale from Best Buy. I had my little 18 to 55 millimeter basic lens.
Kit lens.
The kit lens. Yeah. And every spare minute, I was on a scooter downtown Hanoi. I was taking photos of the food, the architecture there. It's this really cool French colonial mixed with older Southeast Asian architecture. Very, very, very beautiful. I met some really awesome people traveling just up and down the coast of the country because it's very north to south. So taking trips on the weekend and just camera in my hand all the time.
What makes you point the camera and take that shot?
Yeah, I think it's just, I like to observe. I like to just soak things in through sight. I always have. I asked my parents, I was the little kid who would find the tiniest rock on the sidewalk, or the rock down there, and I'd pick it up and look at it and check it out and fall behind everybody, and that just grew into picking up a camera. What it's really become today now, though, is things happen so fast, and things are fleeting. You know, the moment you see could only last for a second, and some of those moments, like this smile here, you want to capture, you want to remember. And the biggest thing for me, though, was I have so many people in my life that I just want to share these things with. And I was lucky enough to have these kind of opportunities that not a lot of people get to do. And if I can take my camera and if I can take those shots, they're not just for myself, they're for my friends and family, that I can show them, like, you know, the world is big and sometimes it looks scary and it can be overwhelming, but it's also not that big. And it's also not that overwhelming all the time. There's so many cool little good things that are always happening. And for me, focusing my camera on that has really become my priority.
So we've covered some of your education. We've covered Vietnam. So we get to the COVID pandemic. What was going on in your life at that point?
Yeah. So everybody in this room, I think it's fair to say that we were all totally affected by COVID and the restrictions and the fallouts of what happened, right? Everything changed, everything froze. Just so happened that I was at a point in my life where this chapter was ending. I was finally graduating with my bachelor's degree. I was applying for different job opportunities. I was actually in the middle of interviewing with Global Affairs Canada as a foreign affairs worker. I had moved into, I think I'd just gotten invited to the second round of interviews, and I was like, okay, sweet, I'm going to Ottawa, I'm leaving BC behind, I'm gonna branch out a little bit. And then you wake up one day and you have about 4 different emails in your inbox, and it's freezing, or hiring has been frozen, your university is closed, you've been laid off from your job, and you're gonna be graduating online behind your computer. And so this new chapter that I was getting ready to write ended up being about 2 sentences long, and the last sentence was just this string of expletives and a middle finger emoji, and that's where it ended. That's where I was. So everything paused, froze, and then following that, everything started to change.
And what was the change because you made a change?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It was your change that was the most important part of the story. So tell us how you came to that conclusion.
Yeah. So as all of this had happened, I was sitting in my suite at the time and just staring at my camera, because it was the thing I was using to still get outside and experience where I was, get some fresh air, a little bit of therapy, just keeping myself busy. And I was thinking, I was also paying attention to the people who were doing things during the restrictions. Like who were the helpers? Who were the people that were moving and doing the good work while things were the way that they were? And I was sitting there, and I had this idea that came into my head, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna offer graduation photos by donation. So there was no minimum charge. I didn't even want to charge people. I just was like, I had some bills to cover. I had to be a little bit intuitive, but I wanted to give back to the community that I was a part of that was affected at the time, which was that graduating class. So I put out a Facebook post, and it ended up getting, a few hundred likes and dozens of shares. And it didn't go crazy huge, but I ended up having people from like Victoria and up north of Nanaimo reaching out to me asking if they could come down to Nanaimo for grad photos. And it became kind of my life for that summer. Like I was every single day, multiple times a day, I was out there taking grad photos. And my student union at Vancouver Island University, they caught wind of it. And we came up with the idea of, instead of the students paying me cash, we were going to set up a situation where students could bring non-perishable items instead. So canned goods, anything that could be donated to a local food bank. And for the price of the local food bank donations, they would have grad photos, and then we could then donate that food to the food banks who were also really hurting at that time. And it just became this project that I got really, really close to my heart with, and something I really, really fell in love with. So from there is where I kind of got this idea of what kind of community-centered work can I do with my camera. And that's where the change started to happen. I started looking at my camera as more of a career move that I could make in the future.
Almost like a tool instead of a toy.
Exactly, yeah. It suddenly became my tool.
Yeah. So let's jump ahead now to this is much more recent. You and your wife embarked on a cross-Canada. Did you really use that?
We really did. We absolutely did.
Wow, I can't imagine your gas bill was pretty good.
Yeah, I'm not ready to talk about that yet.
So what did that journey mean to you? So let's talk about, let's sort of back up a bit and say what that journey was. You drove from British Columbia. How far?
Yeah, so we drove from British Columbia all the way to Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, and then back. A little bit of context. My wife has been dreaming of having a van life adventure we've known each other for almost 10 years, and we have talked about this for the entirety of that time.
Hashtag van life.
Yes, very much. And not quite the van, but this is Speed Nacho. He's our 1977 renovated Vanguard Vandura. We still don't have the M on there yet.
Wow.
But yeah, this is what we took all the way across Canada, and this was pretty much our last. It was an entire year of planning. Finding the right RV, finding the time and the opportunity, putting our pennies away to make it happen because the gas bill was a real thing. And just something we want to do for so long. And we took this opportunity, we're like, we have this chance now to do this. We might not get it again. And we want it to be not only the adventure of a lifetime, but also this reset button. We have goals and things that we want to accomplish. And we want to use this as our catapult into this next chapter of our lives. Then we did that by driving to PEI.
So along the way, let's say what was the most difficult thing you had to endure?
That could be a whole nother interview. Yeah. We were driving back from Quebec. We'd made it all the way to PEI relatively unscathed, a couple days under the hood here and there, but on our way back, we were in Quebec, and it was a Friday night. We were just outside of Quebec City, and I was turning lanes. We were on the highway, and I felt this dip on my back on the passenger side, and we looked at each other, and we're like, that can't be good. So we pulled over onto the shoulder of the highway, again in Quebec. I have grade 12 French. Got out, and we did not have a wheel. We were missing, not a tire, we were missing a wheel. Brake, everything was gone.
Oh boy.
Was gone. So I'll keep it short, but we spent about 6 or 7 hours on the side of the road.
You could make tea.
We could. I think if we had our minds a little straighter, we could have made a nice tea while we were there. But pouring rain, we had a highway patrol officer who essentially saved us that night, drove us to a hotel, and we spent the week speaking in very broken French trying to explain that we had lost a wheel on our old RV and we needed to find a shop to fix it. And it was just this, it ended up being this great lesson in like patience and digging deep and relying on your community and the people around you. But yeah, trying to get a new wheel for something that old in a province where you don't really speak the language was a life lesson and experience. Yeah.
Okay, so move ahead to the coolest thing that happened or things that happened along the way.
I think just getting there and back. Was
it white knuckling the whole way then from that point on?
It was a rush to get back. But I think the coolest part was when we showed up on Prince Edward Island, that we were on the road for almost 3 weeks at that point. And we crossed Confederation Bridge, which is this huge, like it's a bridge from New Brunswick to PEI.
Miles.
It's miles. It was like 10 minutes to drive across.
Yeah.
And we got there and we were just in time to watch the sunset. And we were like, we made it to the 10th province, as far east as we could essentially go in that. That's what we set out to do, and we did it. And that was just such an awesome feeling. And we had a beautiful weekend there too, so it was perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cycling through some of these, so these are the like shots out of the window of the van. Some of them, like I'm imagining.
Yeah. Probably most of the photos I sent your way were my turn riding shotgun, and I would just take my camera and I was playing with the shutter speed and the aperture and trying to get different things along the road. We kind of had this idea in our mind where we had a project where we wanted to really see Canada from the road. You know, we know all the big iconic locations across the country, but we wanted to find those smaller things. And we wanted to do that by just seeing what we could see on the road, any turns that we took, being on the highway, and that just resulted in me shooting as much as I could, like half hanging out the window, tying the camera strap to my arm and hanging it down like this and hoping it didn't come undone or anything. So
So you mentioned your wife is in the audience. There was a blog being published about this journey, was there not?
Yep, absolutely. So my wife is also a travel writer and has been for quite some time. She has a whole website dedicated to mindful travel. So it's ethical and mindful travel. So just being, taking more care with where you go is kind of the ethos behind it. And we had created a series of articles to post, and Danielle has done all of the writing for them. And so she's put them up on her website, which is where they are, where we can go and give them a read if you want to, where they're available.
We'll add the URL into the video.
Perfect.
At the end. So what role has networking and building relationships played in growing your business and finding opportunities?
Yeah, networking has been huge. I'm very quickly learning that shaking hands, making eye contact with the people, and following through on your conversations and the promises is everything. 90% of just getting yourself out there is just following through and showing up. So events like this, where people are coming together, I think I've made some of my best connections so far just here with the co-work space, both inside and outside of Creative Third Thursday. I have some faces who I've gotten to know over the past couple of years that have really, really not just helped me like grow my business and my career and skill as a budding professional photographer, but just my love and confidence in doing that. And that's huge. It's so much more impactful than just trying to grow an online audience.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Social media is blown up as like, you've got to be on social media, you've got to be posting. It's important, but I think we tend to put way more emphasis on it. Is that true than really it warrants?
In my experience, yes.
Yeah. Not for everything you do. Like everything our audience does, but there's nothing like the actual meeting a person and engaging with a person.
Exactly. That is, I think, having a room like this where 20 odd people show up to actually pay attention to what you have to say and what you have to share means so much more than having an audience of 100,000, 200,000 on Instagram who you'll never get to look at them in the eye and shake their hand, right? Like I would rather this than a large removed audience any day.
Well, because the large removed audience is that they are removed. They're never going to hire you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's something I was guilty of putting way more emphasis on social media
I've been
when it
there.
first came out. Everybody's done that, of
absolutely.
course. So where online, speaking of that, where online can people connect with you? Because that it still does, right? It still is important. It's
Yes,
not,
for
it's
sure.
not like we're not diminishing it to the point of nothing, but it still is important. So where online
Yes.
can people?
Yeah. With all of that being said, I am still pretty active on Instagram and the social media platforms. But Instagram is just my last name, first name, Harte Alex. My Facebook page is first name, last name, Alex Harte Photography. I have a website, alexhartephotography.com, which is currently under construction. And a lot of the work that Danielle and I do together is danielleventure.com. And that's where we put a lot of our road trip and travel work on.
Danielle Venture, because
Yeah.
that was going to be my next question. Where's your wife's blog?
Yeah, it'll be
cool.
that.
Alex, we really appreciate you taking time and joining us at Creative Third Thursday, and I'm sure all of our audience are wishing you every success with your creative path forward. And Alex Harte, everyone. So once we stop making our YouTube video, there will be a question and answer period afterwards, so you could actually, ask any direct questions you have for Alex. But I did promise you that trailer for the Chilliwack Independent Film Festival, which begins tomorrow in Chilliwack. It's a huge event. And let's just watch the trailer together, because it's pretty cool.
I'm slowly drifting to you. So stars and planets are calling me. A billion years away from you. I'm on my way. I'm on. I'm on.
There we go. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. So next Creative Third Thursdays is an unconfirmed mystery. So watch our hashtag for that. But it's going to be good. And remember to like and share with our tag Creative Chilliwack if you get a chance. And watch that tag for details. And thanks again for watching to the end. So there's cold drinks in the lobby. There's an opportunity to take selfies. And cheers, everyone.